like David Icke. Flex like David Icke. I think I know the truth. I flex like David Icke. I think I'm David Icke. I flex like David Icke. And I think I know the truth. I think I know the truth. I flex like David Icke, man. I think I know the truth, man. These UFOs are real, and these documents are proof, man.
Aliens are here, man. The aliens are here, man. The reptilians are here, man. The Illuminati's listening.
Hitler never died. The Holocaust a lie. 6 million Jews. Show me the proof. The moon landing's fake. They never went to space. Our president's a clone. He always gets replaced
when he fuck up. The Jews are reptilians, funding Israel to kill the Palestinians, man. When you wake up, I hope you know the truth, man. Cause David Icke was right. Cause David Icke was right. Flex like David Icke. I think I'm David Icke, man. I flex like David Icke. I think I'm David Icke, man. I know I'm David Icke. Cause I know the truth, and he knows the truth.
Back and you look at religious beliefs, etc., of the ancients and the accounts of the ancients, these entities, which got different names, some people call them serpent race, some people call them demonic. In the Islamic culture, they call them jinns. All different names.
I think I'm David Icke. I think I'm David Icke.
I think I'm David Icke. I think I'm David Icke.
I think I'm David Icke. I think I'm David Icke.
I think I'm David Icke, man. I think I'm David Icke, man.
I understand we have a Q&A. Did we go over time for that, or is it still happening? We do? Okay, we'll just do it. We're here. Did anybody have a question? Yes?
Hey, so now that you've dipped your toes into Satanism and had a full immersion here, I see your comments and I know how the atheist community reacts to Satanism a lot. Where do you think that disconnect is?
I'm sorry, there was a noise and applause. Where that is a...
What do you think the disconnect is? Why is the atheist community so,
There's a lot of disconnections within atheism.
Yeah.
Very often as to the philosophical definition of what atheism means. It's so incredibly tedious, but a lot of people are going by what they've been taught all their lives, and sometimes it's difficult to undo where you were misled. And after we got through what that church had done positively, I said, okay, now, as I warned you, we're now going to talk about this faith issue and why you think there's an actual supernatural devil. My devil worshiper, rage quit. Not going to touch his faith. There are religious people who use different bents. And isn't it funny to think that there are some Satanists that can give Satanism a bad name? Some devil worshippers. So there is that. And my wife was concerned because, she says that there are bad Satanists too, which is another funny statement. Did you know that there are bad Satanists? So I think that's where all of that comes from. Any other questions? All right, my talk today will be in honor of the Dogma of Angra Mainyu, and that is the satanic church who challenged the state of Oklahoma on multiple grounds of religious freedom. And I know everybody in this room probably knows the whole story, but I have to preface it for people who will be watching on video. While the Supreme Court said that the state cannot erect religious icons on government property, an Oklahoma court said that that could be done if it was privately funded. So, of course, representatives of the religious right immediately funded a monument to the misnamed, whoops, I'm out of sequence already, the misnamed Ten Commandments. All right, and initially, And of course, when they did this, they found a way around the law the way they usually do. Initially, secular groups, atheists, the ACLU and so forth, weren't able to do anything about it, especially since it had been endorsed by Jews, Masons, and Catholics. And it seemed, I'm sure, like a safe bet that if you allow religious citizens, or if you allow the citizens to put up their own religious icons, it's always going to be Christian because everyone here is Christian, right? Yeah, and no one expected the Satanists of Oklahoma. They raised $25,000 to erect this statue of Baphomet at the courthouse too, next to the Ten Commandments. And the state doesn't know how to say no to them because they've already set a precedent. But it gets funnier because immediately after the Satanists proposed this statue, the Hindus proposed a statue in honor of Hanuman, the monkey god. And there was another group that also petitioned for the flying spaghetti monster. But all of that is currently suspended for two reasons. One, the state is back in court with the ACLU, led by a Baptist minister, much to his credit. Amusingly, it seems that the only way that the state can avoid having this and a whole bunch of other religious monuments dedicated to all the various religions all over their courthouse is if they remember what the First Amendment means and get rid of the Ten Commandments. The other issue is an unfortunate one. Just yesterday, we got the news that some inconvenient nut job drove his car over the Ten Commandments. And to make matters worse, the driver confessed that he was a Satanist, obeying the commands of Satan that he heard in his head. Literally, he told the police, "The devil made me do it." He also confessed to being mentally unstable and off his medication. And last night, I contacted the Dastur of the Dogma of Angra Mainyu, and they said that they never heard of this guy. And the mother of the suspect who confessed said, "My son wouldn't do that." So I'm sure they must have the wrong guy, right? And she said he's a good Christian and all of this. So now we don't know what he is, but we know how the media will treat this, and so that's not going to help the Satanist public image at this point, and it's not going to help our collective case either.
Pretty much it, like, do you think it's possible to unchristianize Christians?
For years now, for maybe 10 years now, I have been getting at least a few messages for whatever medium per week, up to one a day, from former believers thanking me for having walked them out of their delusion. That, more than anything else, keeps me going. Thank you. Yes.
So I know you're still relatively new to the satanic community, but have you found any difference between the larger atheist community and the satanic community?
I'm seeing more overlap of late. I mean, people are really comfortable with saying "Hail Satan."
Hail Satan.
Yeah. I loved when I was, and I know he didn't mean it this way, but there was a thing where The Rock is doing an SLL thing where he's taking some weird drug that makes him do all these crazy things, and he's saying, and sometimes I wake up driving a stolen car. Hail Satan. That's so fucking funny. But I know a politician, a state senator, or running for state senator, I can't remember if he won or not, but I know a politician in California who is open Satanist. Do it. Just completely push the Overton window. What are they going to do? I mean, I've seen in the last week so many accusations about the Satanists are about, sacrificing babies. And I'm no, sorry. You're confusing that with your religion when you look in Exodus 34 and see what your fourth commandment is, to sacrifice your children. And then when you look at Ezekiel, I think it's 22, where it says that God admits that he gave these rules so that he would defile these people by making them sacrifice their own children. Well, you're reading that out of context. No, I'm reading the whole damn thing. There are different passages interweaving back that people actually did that. So no, they were into child sacrifice. Satanists are not. I described last night's event on Twitter this morning. I said that I went to a satanic ball, and that it was a lot like partying with those high-spirited Transylvanians from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, or like attending an Addams Family reunion, but with a more vampiric style of fashion and music. And that it was a charming evening. I use the word charming because, charmed. And I'm liking to see how people react to that you can put a positive spin on a satanic ball. Yes?
Almost as a follow-up to that question, there's a lot of people, maybe not as much recently, but especially when you're starting out, that thought of the Satanic Temples like a satire group, or don't take us seriously, think we're a joke.
You mean Tucker Carlson? Well, you're just a made-up religion. Christianity's not just a made-up religion? Show me a religion that isn't just made up.
In a way, don't you think that kind of the self-recognized humor that we have about kind of just how silly every fucking thing is anyway, isn't that sort of how we're so effective, whereas atheists are kind of...
I'm proud to say that I am a friend of Ivan Stang, who became famous for starting the Church of the Subgenius, the Church of Bob. I've gone to atheist conventions dressed as a pirate, showing my respect to the Pastafarians, right? I admire those who use the logical arguments of the invisible pink unicorn, right? I've been involved in all of that. This one matches my natural clothing aesthetic. Yes.
Can you describe your clothing aesthetic in 3 words?
I don't think so. Yeah. Yes.
What do you think about the Satanic Temple's position on don't engage versus sounds like you want to engage?
I couldn't walk away from those Christian protesters last night. Did you see the get-up I was wearing? I knew that would be so choice to be on their cameras arguing with them. I do try to help them. And I told them at some point I want to try to leave the group because there's 2 or 3 of them up there that are just trying very hard not to understand anything. And as I come back, and you can tell when they're trying not to understand. So I'm trying to walk back to the ball, and a couple of them followed me to try to say, well, just one last thing. And then, so I now have 2 of them to talk to. I'm like, I can help you. What you believe is bullshit. There's literally, honestly, no truth to it. And if we take the time, I can show you that. Because you can't show me the truth of your belief, and I can show you many, many places where it's false. And I want to help you out of that. And so these people are going to contact me later, they say. So, hopeful. One last question, I think? Yeah, one last one. Nope, we got everybody? Get out. Thank you.
Today is the National Day of Prayer, which first came to be in 1952 with a joint resolution by Congress and a signature by President Harry S. Truman. It was codified in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan, permanently setting aside the first Thursday of May as the National Day of Prayer. But there were broad calls for prayer across this country even before it was a country. The Second Continental Congress asked the colonies to pray for wisdom in forming a nation back in 1775. A year later, Congress set aside May 17th, 1776, as a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer throughout the colonies. That was reiterated by President Lincoln in 1863. And according to the National Day of Prayer website, this day enables us to recall and to teach the way in which our founding fathers sought the wisdom of God when faced with critical decisions. But what if you don't believe in God? Well, then I guess this day isn't really for you. But what if you're religious, but your religion doesn't exactly involve a God, which is what we found today at the Idaho State House.
Their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. Christ is the end of the law, so that there may be righteousness for everyone who believes.
In the Lord, dear friends.
While the sound of supplication seemed
in the Lord always
sparse on the steps of the state capitol on this National Day of Prayer,
how's everyone doing today?
It was certainly sufficient on the inside.
Ready to hail some Satan?
Where the second floor rotunda
we thank you, Lord. We worship you, Lord.
Was a
Hail Lilith! Hail Satan!
Round robin of religion.
And I give you glory, Father God.
I normally host a
Bible study at my home on 10, and we decided that it would be a good idea, since the National Day of Prayer, to just come down and pray around the Capitol in the rotunda. We had no idea what we were walking into.
Take care, never.
What they walked into
Backs to fit one's own beliefs.
was the Satanic Temple, Idaho.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hear our Satan prayer. Our anti-Nicene Creed. Hear our Satan prayer. For the coming of seed. Hear our Satan prayer. Unholy Ghost, Overlord and Taker of Life. Now, how did that feel to the folks who are not Satanists? Most of the Christians here think nothing of hijacking our public halls of power with their spoken prayers, even though not everyone participating or even paying the taxes to keep the lights on in government buildings are all Christians. Is that hard for Christians to understand? Do they already know this and disrespect everyone else by forcing others to bow to their God? The founding fathers of this nation weren't all Christian either. Two of the ones most people named, George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, were also Freemasons. Freemasons do not consider themselves a religion, although they did adopt what look like religious symbols. They weren't Satanists either, but that didn't stop the Catholic Church from persecuting them. Back in 1983, when Pope John Paul II decreed that Catholics enrolled in Masonic associations are involved in serious sin and may not approach Holy Communion. Even in the present, there was serious talk of denying our devoutly Catholic President, Joe Biden, Holy Communion over his support of women's reproductive rights.
I don't really wanna jump to conclusions, but I got a feeling the world is living in delusion. Lost and confused are so many of our youth, in tune with evolution, so they're missing the truth. Refuse of atheism and whatever they choose. We knew there'd be division from them breaking the rules. Isn't it sufficient that he gave us the clues? Existing in a visit from the king of the Jews. Refuse to recognize the parallels and views, alluding to the fact that God is not amused when we do not worship him but what we buy and use, pretending to ignore that which our conscience views. Tell our kids they're just like animals and apes and zoos. Then we wonder why our churches have these empty pews. As soon as they believe the knuckle-dragging baboons, they can act like animals because they got the excuse. Lock your doors, I'm afraid that there's monkeys on the loose. Assuming this is truly the only thing that counts is you. Bow down, give the golden calf his due. You might as well worship an idol with what you do. You worship what you got, what you buy and what you do, and why wouldn't you, if all that counts is you? Bow down, give the golden calf his due. You might as well worship an idol with what you do. You worship what you got, what you buy and what you do, and why wouldn't you, if all that counts is you? What's it gonna take to admit our mistakes? Awaken to the fact that we've all been played, persuaded to embrace ideas we once were apes, and amoebas are related to the human race. It's amazing that we bought into this whole charade, made to think that there's no God and we cannot be saved. It's evaded education like a deadly plague, and degraded many minds of any hope enslaved by the sins they are just driven by the rage and shame. Instead of his forgiveness, it's a ball and chain that they carry with them daily like their favorite thing. It's no wonder kids are craving what they should disdain. Is there something in the water, or the drugs to blame? Or is there something deeper that we can't explain? With crazy zombie people who might eat your face, it makes me think that we are living in the last of days. It seems like sin is growing and invading brains, people acting like they're golden with this precious rain. Bow down, give the golden calf his due. You might as well worship an idol with what you do. You worship what you got, what you buy and what you do, and why wouldn't you, if all that counts is you? Bow down, give the golden calf his due. You might as well worship an idol with what you do. You worship what you got, what you buy and what you do, and why wouldn't you, if all that counts is you?
should have started earlier. That, like I said, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, has gone wrong, has gone wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We control everything you do, everything you think, everything you say. We decide who your friends will be, where you go to school, who you marry, how many kids you will have, and the car you will drive, and at what speed. We will make you work for money, and tell you how you spend it, and modify your seeds. We will make you hate the ones you love, family, friends, and yourself. We will monitor your each and every move, pollute your air and water to weaken your health. We will turn you against each other to control any unrest. We will sell you drugs and put you in jail for buying them. We know what's best. What you hear and see, whether your bank gives back your money, if you'll be the next president or prime minister, if you'll be free or a prisoner. We decide when you go out, where, how long, how often. We work you to death and charge you for your coffin.